How would you describe your leadership style in 3 words?
Authentic, passionate, and I use for people as well as performance-oriented.
Says Claudia Viohl, CEO and Chairperson of the board at E.ON Czech Republic. And how would you describe your leadership style in 3 words?
Trust-based, communicative and collaborative.
Says Catrina Gemmerich, Managing Director at VIG Re, Germany. Ladies, thank you for joining us in this studio for 5th and final episode of this mini-series. We are shooting this episode at the end of July. So my first question is very simple. How is your summer, Catrina?
Summer is, frankly speaking, still ahead of us. So I traveled here from Munich today and finally summer is coming. So I'm looking forward to have some relaxing weeks ahead of us.
And Claudia, how is your summer so far?
I have to say I had already my holidays, my vacations, but I very much enjoy the summer. Honestly, the summer here in Czech Republic is wonderful and I very much enjoy to go out to hike. And business is busy, but of course in summer you always have time to discuss some strategic topics and think a little bit ahead.
Thanks again for finding time in your calendars to join us for this session. And this podcast series focuses on borders, mainly in the sense of operating as an expat, some top manager who works and lives beyond his or hers original borders. And I have to start, Catrina, with you, because you are operating in Munich, you are living in Munich, but now you are in Prague. So let's have some context for the beginning. How international are you?
Well, that's a good question. And first and foremost, I love coming to Prague and I travel here on a very regular basis. I would say every 4 to 6 weeks. And it's always a funny feeling, in particular now these days in summer, if you have the beauty of traveling in your plane with all of the tourists coming to Prague to visit the beautiful city, and you'd go there on a business trip. And I have the pleasure of doing this on a very regular basis. Why am I mentioning this? Because international. I experience the work very international. At Prague, we have at VIG Re more than 25 nations, so a very international and global business that we do in general. But also to me, there's something personal that has basically been there my entire life. Born in Italy, studied abroad in the Netherlands, lived in the UK for some time and then moved to Munich. And now I have the beauty of working in an international business that is headquartered in Prague but has operations in Paris as well as in Munich with our with basically belonging to a group that is Austrian centered and headquartered. So this is amazing.
And you're not only managing director of Germany, but you are also head of DACH and Nordics regions at VIG Re and also chief market officer. Does this mean that your career right now is fully international?
Yes, it is very international. And not only due to the fact that we're basically looking after diverse markets, but Germany, for example. For me, in my current role for the past 1.5 years, I'm basically responsible for the German market. So also here, I experienced Germany, for example, completely new than being German myself. That's something I find very interesting. But of course, with the business in the Nordics, for example, but also in my role as VIG Re's Chief Market Officer, we think about how do we basically position ourselves in different markets? What is the philosophy we want to embrace? But at the same time, how do we take care of cultural differences and local standards where we want to be really mindful about?
I think all of these topics meet with Claudia, but we will get to it. The first thing that comes to my mind with you is, are you okay if I say that you are expat? Or do you feel any different way? Because for the context, you are listed of one of the most influenced CEOs in Czech Republic, and you are definitely one of the most influent foreign CEOs in the Czech Republic. So how about the term expat?
This is a very good question. I would say formally you are right. I am an expat. But if you look into the reality, I decided 3.5 years ago when I took on the role to move really with all what I have to Czech Republic. As I truly believe, if you really want to create impact as a CEO of a company, you have to understand in what kind of environment you work. And that's why it's good also to live here. So I would say in reality, I put my home base here and I live here, I work here, and I am landed. I have to say the language is still a challenge, but I am on the way.
So it's a really interesting topic. If you are operating in the international environment, in your case, you're operating in a brand new country, are you trying to live and act and feel and talk as much as possible as Czech person?
I try, honestly, and I want to, and the reason is the following. E.ON has more than 3,000 employees here. And honestly, I'm the only German in this company. So therefore, I would treat my people without respect if I am not ready to adapt and try to understand where they are and how they think in order to together understand what our strategic targets are and how to move the organization and the people into the right direction. So I think you should expect it from a leader also to adapt to an environment and to the people around you.
It's a little bit easier if there is a one nation, but for you, Catrina, it's so many nations. Do you also have to adapt if you are dealing with someone from or working with someone from Austria or Nordics region or Czech Republic? Are you have to adapt every time?
It's a good question. To me, this is natural right now. I think this is really something that is probably part of my DNA. I simply love it. And this has also something to do with empathy that you have, sensitivity with whom you interact and how you interact. But of course, you always think about, okay, if there is in particular a group of people coming from a certain country, are there specifics to have in mind? We as a team need to embody this, but I think this is really the beauty and the essence of it. And something that also if you have a look at younger generations, for example, how they interact, how they take certain borderless interactions for granted, I think this is something we can really learn from, that the borders are probably only in our minds and nowhere else.
Is the adaptability something that you can learn, or is it something that you have to have within yourself, Claudia?
Wow, this is a very difficult question. Hopefully you are ready to learn it. Honestly, I think we talk a lot about diversity and understanding different perspectives. That's why I hope that people are ready to learn it. But it also depends on in what kind of environment people have been grown up. Let's be very honest. When you are 40 years in an environment where I think your truth is created, it's much more difficult to understand that there are other people out in the world. And as you have said, I think if you are grown up in an international environment, you have moved from one country to the other, you always have worked in diverse teams, it's much more easier to adapt and to cope with that. I hope you can learn it, but you need a lot of time to put yourselves in shoes of others, to change the perspective, to listen. And not only to listen, but also to try to understand.
And did you have to personally learn it? Because you've been to E.ON or the structures of E.ON for almost 20 years before you decided to move to Czechia. So did you have to learn it, or did you have to find it within yourself?
I think I have been working for E.ON for a very long time, and E.ON is also a very international company, and I worked in different functions where it was necessary to work with all the countries around me. So I very much learned about it early in my career. But then when you move in a total different country and you really want to live and to drive, also you have to reflect again on it. Is it sufficient what I do? Yeah, I think I have a lot of examples where I thought it's common sense how to behave, it's common sense how to act every single day. And then I experienced, there are some people around me that have a totally different understanding. What does it mean to act in daily life? And then you need the openness, not only to try to bring your thinking through, but to say, okay, perhaps I am in this environment not right, and to adapt a little bit can make a difference in the results. So therefore, it's a continuous learning process.
Catrina, same question. if I want to have international career or career in an international environment, am I able to learn the adaptability, or is it something that I need to have within myself?
Yeah, maybe following up, because I think you already mentioned very excellent notions of these questions. If I may add to this, adaptability probably is something that is also closely linked with curiosity. So for me, the topic when you want to, if you're interested to pursue an international career, curiosity is probably something to embrace, to think about, and that ultimately, I believe, leads to adaptability. And I believe as a leader, when you operate in such an environment, what is extremely important is to foster the teams and to really encourage an environment that is first of all grounded on mutual respect. Because with more cultures, with diversity in thinking and diversity in the minds, a sensitivity needs to be there on how people react, what approaches can be there. And I believe if you then really have a solid, grounded culture of respect and trust, then this is a success factor for high-performing teams, but also for a lot of fun. And actually passion for what we do.
Usually I would ask if women are more suitable for the sensitivity, part of the job, but let's give it a different try. Do you know how to teach men how to be sensible enough? How you described it?
Wow.
Difficult question.
Yeah, how to teach men.
Or do we need to teach them? Because most of the, questions regarding to women empowerment topics are, do you feel that you are more sensible, or do you feel that you have some different aspects of, leadership style than men? But let's change it. And I'd like to ask you if you are trying, because in your team, there are men only. So if you are trying to teach them some, leadership aspects of being open and diverse enough.
Frankly speaking, me as a leader, but also as a female leader, I don't like to differentiate so much between what is male, what is female. This is about personalities, but this is also about on a joint, basically rule of how do we play the game together that we need to embody as a team. So from my team, for example, I can only say that these topics of sensitivity, for example, but also feedback and understanding for each other, they are there. But this is simply because the way how do we work, and this is something that is not artificial. But I think you're at the same time absolutely right. Sometimes it's good to talk about these things and to also, and this is what you mentioned earlier, how do we use summertime? We use summertime for strategic questions, but we also use the summertime and times in between to do a bit of a sense check. Where do we stay as a team? How do we currently feel? And I think this question holds true for all genders. And also men sometimes then recognize, hey, maybe in this situation, I've been a bit too pushy. I could have thought about how this could have been treated differently, but the same holds true for women. So I think this is really rather personality-based and not so much gender-based.
Well, I didn't plan to open this topic in this part of interview, but let's continue with it because it's really interesting. Claudia, do you think that it is important to have enough sensitivity in a boardroom in general?
Of course it is, yeah. And I very much like your answer. Leadership is a very personal thing, yeah. You have to do it your way. You have to be authentic. So it does not make sense when you do not feel good with a behavior that you try to behave like that. People follow you if they have the impression you do what you say and you are very authentic. And that's why it is very important that you have a very diverse team. And if somebody does not have the strengths, that you have somebody else who is better in it. And for me, it's coming back to your question. It's not about teaching people. This is not the way. It's to learn from each other and to see, okay, this works out. This is good, that is bad. And also to reflect on it. Yeah. So also as a top management team, to have regular touch points, to reflect on the strengths, on the weaknesses. What do we want to do different? What do we want to achieve in the company? What is the role as a leader? A leader is always a role model. So that's why the truth is, We have strengths in some aspects as leaders, others have their strengths, and let's make the best out of it.
So basically, it's a huge playground. And do you like the game? If I call it a game, do you like it?
Yes, definitely I like it, but it's also a big responsibility. Yeah, also in our roles, it's not the responsibility for yourself. You have a responsibility for a company, for a big team. That's why you have to be very much dedicated to it, and you have to put your full power into it. You can't be a half leader. If you are responsible for a company, and not only for the results, but also for the developments and the people, you have to love it. And you have to be ready to interact with people. If you do not like people, perhaps a CEO is not the right function, as it is not only about the strategy, it's also about the way how to develop the organization and help the people to grow and to deliver according your strategic plans.
I can see the Catrina increase.
Yeah, I fully agree. And I think this also goes back to the topic of learning and adaptability, because ultimately, as a leader, you need to learn yourself on a daily basis, reflect, how have I engaged in this situation? Is this really how I want to be in a particular situation with a team, but also with respective other leaders and colleagues that you're interacting with? So I think this topic of stepping back, zooming out, zooming in is a capability that is extremely important, because I believe that as a modern leader, the topic of situational leadership is really extremely important, because the world around us is never static. Everything changes at a pace with geopolitical topics, other basically risks around us, but at the same time, an environment that is fueled with opportunities where you simply need to be on the spot. And this also holds true with basically thinking, hey, did I do this right in this way? Could there be another way? And to also openly acknowledge, probably there would have been a smarter way to do this. And there is not always the notion of this is the manager, the leader, she or he knows everything right, but to also admit there might have been mistakes, and let's try it out differently next time.
Speaking of responsibility and leadership and women leadership, do you feel that women in your positions have an extra responsibility towards other women, in sense of if I don't succeed, it will be way more difficult for them to get to this position? Is it? Because sometimes I hear it from women top managers, like I am the first CEO of this company, or I am the first board member of this company, and I feel that if I don't succeed, it will be way more difficult for other women to get to boardroom or to the executive position?
This is a very good question. I think, of course, as we have not so many female CEOs, as an example, than male CEOs, there is more attention to that. And especially as we discuss a lot about female leadership, diversity. And it is talked a lot more about when a woman fails. But if you compare statistics, I think there is nothing what is different. I would phrase it a little bit differently. Of course, we are role models. And there are a lot of young ladies, women out, who love to watch us and would like to learn how we do it, balancing life, being a woman. And I think that is what we have to think about. What do we do in order to help these women to grow, to feel confident? Whenever I talk to younger ladies, I say, find your inner beliefs. Yeah, don't do that what other tells you. The first is do a kind of self-reflection, what you really want, and not what other tells you what you want. And that is for me most important in a way how I talk to others, that don't underestimate that you have the right to do whatever you want. You don't have to be a top manager if you don't want to. But it's more be self-confident, think about what you want, and then fight for it.
Does this also mean that you don't feel this kind of responsibility, or you cannot think about it, because if you think about it, it would be some kind of, damaging you from inside. If you are thinking a lot about all the responsibilities you have and also towards other women.
I think I feel responsible to develop people, independent whether woman or man. Nevertheless, whenever I'm approached, support, of course, women. I think what is most difficult would be if there is a competition between women. This would be crazy, especially as I think we have to help women to grow in such roles. But I see my responsible as a top leader to be a role model, to help people to develop, to exploit their potential, independent whether it's a man or a woman. But when I'm approached by women, I love to talk to them, help them, share my experiences made, and then help them to grow.
Catrina, do you have the same view on this topic, or do you somehow maybe feel a little bit responsible towards other women? You are the first one on your position. You basically build up the Munich branch from zero.
Yeah, to come back to your question, it's an interesting one. I haven't thought about this, frankly speaking, and I would personally probably rephrase it a little bit for myself. I've never felt this type of responsibility, or let's say thought, what happens if I fail? But I'd rather, and this would be my encouragement to everyone, look at where I stand and what I have achieved. This is great, and let's build on that. I like to bring the positivity into things, right? Of course, everything can go wrong. And of course, it's a huge responsibility. But there are also many options that we have and opportunities around us. So I think I'd rather like to focus on the positive edge of things and not so much on let's say, the potential risks that are associated with this. Which is interesting because the nature of our business, reinsurance, it's all about risk management, right? So we need to calculate the potential downsides that we are taking on as a business on our balance sheet. And this is what we're basically doing on a daily basis. So it's funny that from a personal feeling, this is actually a little bit different. But I would really like to encourage every young female, but also every young male, everyone who is sort of thinking about their career next to what you have said, to think about, what do I like to do? What is really giving me enjoyment? And for me personally, in my prior company where I worked at Munich Re, but also now at VIG Re, I thought about, okay, what am I curious about? What do I like to learn? And then think about, does this fit to me personally? Is there something I would like to do more? And then develop step by step. I think, these typical old school HR questions that we also used to hear, okay, where do you see yourself in 3 years and where do you see yourself in 5 years? I think these times are over.
So I shouldn't ask about it,
You
right?
can ask
Okay.
it, of course. But I think we can be a lot more, let's say, spontaneous in the sense of what is driving me, because what is driving me will ultimately also be a good indicator of what am I good at and where can I thrill and succeed.
Catrina, you started your career in a banking area in, let's say, corporate world. On the other hand, Claudia, you started, as I understand, in a family-owned hobby market.
I grew up there, but I started as a professional consultant.
Okay, so here's my question. What was your first adult job? What did you do, Claudia?
Honestly, after I studied economics, I started as a consultant, as I thought it could be a good opportunity to learn more about different industries, to learn more about what's going on in the companies, what kind of problems do they have, and how can I help. And this was a very broad and interesting experience. But, and we will come back to that later, after 4 years, I recognize it's very nice to tell people and companies what the weaknesses are and to tell them how they should implement measures. But I would like to be more responsible also for implementation and for the drive of the change.
And what was your first so-called adult job?
Yeah, it's a funny expression, adult
Because
job.
in Czechia, we have like the summer jobs that you do while studying, and you don't think of them as a proper jobs.
Yeah, that is correct. I mean, in between my studies, between bachelor and master's, I also studied economics. I was working at a bank throughout the financial crisis. So, of course, as this was quite a long period, I considered this as the first real role. That was definitely exciting, but at the same time, as you can imagine, in turbulent times. And then my really long permanent position, I then took over at Munich Re. Basically starting in reinsurance. And this was a great start and a great step into the reinsurance world, where I was basically allowed to work with many fascinating individuals and really, as I mentioned before, benefit from learning so much.
Ladies, if I told you at the beginning of your career that this will be your career in 2024, would you be surprised? Would you be excited about it? Would you be sad about it? Catrina, if I told you that in 2024 you will be managing director at VIG Re Germany, you will be head of DACH, Nordics, chief market officer, what would be your honest reaction?
I was like, wow, really? I would be super excited. I mean, I'm very happy of having the opportunity to do this, and I enjoy this on a daily basis. But this was never planned. As I said, I started in banking. I then realized throughout the financial crisis, this is not where probably my path is going to stay. I always had a strong interest for natural science, so that's why then having had the chance to combine economics, natural science in reinsurance was the perfect fit. But one and a half years before starting within reinsurance, I didn't even know how the business model ran. So this was a lucky coincidence.
If I met Claudia in consulting and told her that this will be her career, the head of one of the biggest companies in Czech Republic, what would be her reaction?
I think I can follow you. I also would be surprised. I think at that point of time and also today, I think what's my inner strive is I would like to strive for the better. So I think I would say, obviously, I would end up somewhere, but to be in Czech Republic, to leave Germany, to be as a CEO responsible for more than 3,000 employees in a totally different environment, of course, I would be very much excited about it.
You both said yes to your current positions. And at the same time, you said yes to delivering huge change. In your case, it's a huge energy transition. In Catrina's case, it's building a brand new branch and creating the whole new company. Are you people who need to have huge task ahead of themselves, or was it something that was part of the job offer and you didn't have a chance to think about it? So were you the ones who were like more into, okay, I like this challenge and it's big enough for me, or were you like, I will try to cope with it? Catrina?
Yeah, definitely the first one. Up for the challenge.
And how are you dealing with the challenge at this moment? Is it done, or is it something that you are still working on? Do you need more challenges? How is the 2024 situation?
No, let's put this into perspective. As you mentioned before, I mean, the past 1.5 years have been very intense with many different topics taking place. Building up a new branch in Munich, establishing a team, finding a team, but also, and this is most importantly, managing a transition process for our clients and business partners, being there, being visible, at the same time coming into a new company, meeting colleagues, managing basically the situation between working in Munich, building up something, traveling to clients internationally, traveling to the headquarters in Prague, working on projects. So there have been many moving blocks. So is this finished? No, but the first phase has been very successful. I'm very proud of what we have established since then, but I'm also happy to now drive this forward and bring more stability, resilience, but also an acceleration into this process.
And do you still need to have, in short-term or mid-term horizon, some huge tasks to approach and to deal with?
You know, This is the beauty of working in reinsurance. The environment around us is always changing. Every year, and in particular, since I would say the past 5-6 years, we were seeing new risks. So this is basically always presenting you with new challenges and opportunities. We had COVID. We have a high increase of natural events that we see around us. Thunderstorms, earthquakes, hail events. So the risk landscape is changing, and this is basically always for our business and for me personally a new challenge, but also a new opportunity to think, how can we become and stay more relevant? Because ultimately it is our role to increase societal resilience for all of the risks that are around us. And this is why I believe the industry and reinsurance is it's hidden somehow. I mean, you never really know it's there. But if the big things happen, then you know that reinsurance will be there. And I think this is a role we have to take good care of. And this is also a high responsibility to make sure we think about what is happening in 5 years, in 10 years, but also in 20 years' time. And this is, I would say, a big challenge that still provides many, many opportunities.
Well, thankfully, energy is not changing at all, right? You have really calm area of work.
Very calm environment, yes.
So how about you and the big challenge? Because for you, it wasn't only to lead this company in a new country. It was to lead the company through the biggest transition that's been here in decades.
So definitely, I also love challenges, and I truly believe it's better to drive change than to be driven by change. Yeah, I love to be active. In case I'm not active, I don't feel good. And this role, I think I definitely asked for a broader role. I definitely asked for more responsibility, and I definitely asked for a little bit personal disruption. And I was lucky that I was offered this kind of position, as this position is a very wonderful position. But of course, when I arrived 3.5 years ago, and we talked about that already, I think I entered into the country, and then we had the biggest energy crisis ever in Europe. So of course, there is a better time to land as a newly appointed CEO in a country. But nevertheless, this also gives you a great opportunity, provides you a great opportunity to understand your company. And honestly, the energy transition is one of the biggest and most greatest challenges we have. And it's interconnected also what you said. I think we see how environment is changing, what kind of climate problems and challenges we have ahead of us. That's why I also feel very much privileged that I'm allowed to lead this company and help also Czech Republic on the way to be greener and better. It's not yet done at all. So there are so many challenges ahead of us. But when I can do a little every day to make it better and to help Czech Republic and Europe and the world, I think then I can really feel good.
For both of you, the new challenge for you in 2021, right, and for you in 2023 also meant new teams. Claudia, you've entered the company with more than 3,000 new people who liked their previous CEO and now had a new amazing CEO from Germany. Was it important, or is it still important for you to feel that they like you? And I don't mean it in a cheesy way, but that they feel really positive about you as a leader. And was it difficult for you to become their liked leader?
I think you have to ask the 3,000 employees whether they like me or not. I think it's not about that I want to be liked. It's more about that they accept me as their leader who has the willingness as well as the capabilities to set the strategic direction and to help the organization to grow and to make it. Of course, I also have to take very tough decisions every single day. So like is perhaps not the right way. It's more about respect, understanding, and buy into my way how to lead the organization. And this means I also have to understand them, what they need, where they are. And one interesting observation, I think, what is said in all books is that when you land in a new role, the first 3 months listen and then come with your interesting plan for the next years to come. I have to say, in reality, it's often different. I came here and I recognized that people are not yet as open as I would like to have them to tell me what should be improved and where should we go. I needed some other approaches to really understand the company. And it took me much more longer than I expected. So therefore, adaptability, really to understand in which kind of environment are you, how open are the people, what is the right approach to really learn about them and understand what is right in the company and what is wrong. I think this is very necessary in order to be successful.
Was it easier for you to get closer to people in Prague, in capital, or in regions in Czech Republic?
I do not see a difference here. I think the only really challenge is the missing language skills. That's why really to talk to people in the fields, there is, of course, a kind of burden that you do not talk the language. But I do it my way. My way is a very personal way. Body language is very important. Be very interested. Trying to understand what the people in the customer care centers are doing, what the people in the blue-collar workers are doing is very, very important. And honestly, what I try to do on top is to build a very strong management team, and also by behavior of the management team, to convey the message that's not only the CEO, but that the leadership stands behind you and helps you to bring your understanding into the organization.
Well, that's a very practical approach, and thank you for a list of things that we can do when we want to be closer to our colleagues. Catrina, as I understand, you had to build up the whole team, and you have had to find new people and do a lot of hirings in quite difficult times, because it's really not easy to find great people on a market these days. But you did it. So what was your key to success?
Yes, that is correct, although it was at the same time a transition phase, because back then there was a small branch established in Frankfurt. So it was also about dealing basically with the situation, who wants to move, are there different options, what are alternative basically career path. So on the one hand side, basically, managing this transition, closing down the branch on the one hand side, but then really making the move to Munich and starting from scratch there. And you're absolutely right. If we look at the talent market, this is probably not the easiest thing to do. But I think it was a great task, because you need to bring it down to the core. What do I stand for? What is the purpose? Where do we go? What do we want to achieve? And what is the mindset I would like to have in the team? And then you basically start. And I have to say, I was very lucky of finding not only new team members, but finding the team members. It's always a personal recipe how to approach it. But I would say really knowing what you're looking for, what your plan is, but then also being flexible. And I believe this has really been the recipe for success, is not looking for positions, but looking for people and then do the position.
Was it more difficult or easier than getting closer to people working within the regions you are working with? I mean, in Nordics, in DACH region. Was it easier to build your own team, or getting closer to people who are thousands of miles away?
Probably there's not so much of a big difference. I would say building the team, if you would ask me, probably was the tougher challenge, I would say, because I'm used to manage and be responsible for client relationships since many years now. So it's important, and the same holds true what Claudia mentioned before, whether this is a client, an employee, a business partner, is to show interest, show that you are there. And we have so many great options of doing this. It's traveling, but it's also Teams, it's picking up the phone, it's sending an iMessage. Of course, this is easier, and I had the beauty that in some parts I took also over the responsibilities for countries which I was managing before. So I had my network. Network is something that is really important. But for the new markets I took over, I basically experienced a lot of openness and interest. And I specifically looked, okay, how do I plan these interactions? And then took it from there.
Ladies, do you feel in any way of your work world powerful? Catrina.
Powerful. I would probably not use the term for myself. I feel that I have responsibility, but of course power at the same time. A careful consideration of how to use and basically implement it.
Well, I chose power because of Claudia, the word, because you're working in this area. But how often do you feel powerful?
I also like this answer. I would not see that I feel powerful, but I am aware that I have power. And power in a sense of that I am the CEO, I can take decisions, people will follow me in a lot of aspects. What I say, people listen to me. That's why I have power. The question is how I use this power positively in every single second in daily life to make it better. And sometimes it's a responsibility, sometimes it also can be a burden. You know, I sometimes do not feel like a CEO. I think, why they behave differently? We can act on eye level. But this is my perspective. People still see you as a CEO, the most important person in E.ON in Czech Republic. So they act with deep respect. And sometimes I would love to see them be more open and forget about hierarchies. So it's a big responsibility and sometimes also it's a burden.
I could choose the word, impact or impactful, but I like the sense of the word power. And thank you for your honest answers. You are both powerful, in fact, impactful, and also recognized. Catrina, you've been recently selected for the Intelligent Issuers Leaders Under 40 list. Claudia, you've been selected for 100 people transforming business in Europe in supply chain area, and also top CEOs in Czechia by Forbes magazine. The next question is very simple. What is success for you? Claudia.
So success for me is, my personal success is, if I really can change the world for the better whenever I can. As I said, I'm very much privileged. So that's why I think I can give something back to the society. As a CEO, of course, being responsible for an energy company, we know that the energy problems of the world have to be solved in order to have a green and sustainable world. In my private life, of course, there are a lot of people around me who are not as privileged as I am. So I want to treat them with respect and help whenever I can. And this is for me my personal success. And if you ask me where I want to like to end up, in an environment, community where I can bring my power in and help also other people who are not as privileged as I am.
So when I read all these recognitions, you don't feel successful just by hearing them?
No, it's not about a title. It's not about a title. It's about, do I go home and feel good? And good does not mean only in my professional environment, not in my professional environment also, so also in my personal environment. If I would not be CEO, are there still people around me who would say Claudia is a good person? I think this is what is of importance, that it is not your role, it's you as a person, you as a private person, how you act and how you behave.
Catrina, really tough to follow up on this. So what means success to you?
Yeah, 3 thoughts on that. Success, and that's number 1 and most important, is if we can be a super solid rock partner for our clients, if we can take on risks and be a partner on their side. That's the most important thing, and this is really what is driving me and is also driving the teams at VIG Re, is finding adequate solutions for risks. And if we manage this and if we can do more of that, then we're successful. Number 2 is seeing the teams having impact, as you said it so nicely before, and seeing them succeed. For me, this is really an enjoyment to see how things are progressing, how ideas are building up on each other. If I see that basically this is running smoothly, but at the same time there's also fun in doing so, there is a good vibe. And point number 3, success. This is probably very closely linked to Claudia's last comment. I have a personal sort of sense check for myself that I developed over the years. I take my bicycle to work every day, in the morning and in the evening. And I have a feeling I really look forward cycling to work. And that's a good sense check for me that somehow success, but also enjoyment for myself as a person is there. And the same holds true when I cycle back home to say, hey, that was a good day, happy about the day, and let's continue like this.
So did you celebrate when you were listed in 2 leaders under 40 on a bike or with your colleagues?
Not yet.
Not yet. Ladies, my very last question is probably my most favorite within this season. It will be a little bit easier for you, Catrina, but I think it is the question that wraps all we've talked about perfectly. What means home for you, ladies? Catrina.
Easy. Home is a feeling. Home is a feeling, is a state of mind with an environment, with the people around me. It's not linked to a location.
Claudia?
I would answer similar in a way. Home is an environment which is created for you where you feel safe and where you feel good and where you can relax and forget about your problems, and people around you help you whenever you have an issue.
Thank you very much for your time. Have amazing summer and stay powerful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.